Hey everyone, Sparrow here. We're back in Sandstone Eco Zoo and it's been a while, 4 months in fact. So today we're starting with a short tour of what we can find in SEZ already, and then we'll jump into a slightly different build format than our usual speed build. Let's go to the zoo. Here is where the first few episodes of Sandstone Eco Zoo took us. We have our entrance, which is loosely based on Palm Beach Zoo in Florida. Over there is our eventual exit, and over on this side here is our staff entrance, which leads into the backstage area with all of the main buildings and then also some habitat access as well. Here is how we head into the zoo. Right in front of us is our massive entry plaza, and to our left immediately we have some little penguins. So they have a viewing area that shows their land or beach portion, which they love to hang out in, and then they also have an underwater viewing gallery over here. Plenty of fun extra things like signage. And all the way around here, so we can see them swimming around, we do also get a peek into their backstage area, which is right here. Over to the right of the entrance, we have a building that will eventually be our gift shop once they're not broken in game anymore. And then up here we have a quokka photo station because they are well known for people wanting to take selfies with them over on Rottnest Island where they live. And as we wrap around here, we get a view of the quokka habitat. And now we'll be taking this large central space from this to this. While I start building out the plaza, let me just quickly apologize for the fact that I didn't notice the bottom of this video was cut off. My lovely, supportive fiance got me a new gaming laptop for Christmas, and I didn't do my homework before recording. Turns out it has a native resolution of 16:10 and YT videos are 16:9. So the bottom portion is cut off for this video, but never fear, I have found a solution for the next video, so that should be back to normal next time. And shout out to my tech wizard of a brother for that one. I also wanted to explain the change in format, and not in a new year, new me kind of way, but kind of. YouTube has changed and continues to change quite quickly. In my 6 months on this channel, there have been quite a few things that I've had to learn and relearn. And that's not a bad thing, but if you stay the same while learning new things and don't adapt to them, that is a bad thing. So instead of showing you entire portions of this speed build, we're going to slow it down and focus on the most important parts of each build, which hopefully will give you a better idea of how to do some of these things yourself and also prevent you from watching me do the same foliage hundreds of times throughout a series. If this sounds good to you, make sure to leave me a like, and if not, comment your displeasure and I will get back to you. With that said, let's jump into it. So far, I've outlined the habitat with a null barrier, and now we're placing some panels along the plaza edge so that the front of the habitat can be sunk down and allow for a lower fence on this side. Tried to move the terrain with the barriers in place. This was never a problem in TNS. Even checked that I had disabled terrain and scenery collisions, but it didn't want to work for some reason. So I just moved the barriers aside and went along the plaster. If you know why this isn't working, please do leave me a comment down below. I've not had this issue in previous zoos. The reason for this rocky moat is that dingoes very much look like something you could keep as a pet, but we do have to remember that they are still wild animals. We're going to have a few different levels in this habitat so it looks slightly sloped and reflects the dunes that dingoes might inhabit out in the wild as well. At the back of the habitat is their backstage building. Now the concept for this enclosure is a junkyard, and I'm not going to lie to you, this idea partially came from Lady and the Tramp 2, where there's a group of dogs living in a junkyard, but I also thought it fit well with Sandstone Eco Zoo's sustainability goals. As part of that, the backstage building is basically going to be a few sea cans or shipping containers repurposed into a shelter for the dingoes. Using this maintenance vehicle to scale because we want to be able to deliver the animals to their habitat somehow as well. To build them, it's going to take lots of corrugated iron panels, but we're going to replace one end with mesh so that we can line up a few of these next to each other, and the keepers will still have easy access to each holding area, as well as the option to separate animals if needed. Sea cans are really great for creating modular builds. There were quite a few cool looking houses I found online while doing research for this build. None of them could particularly inspire this backstage though, because those sea cans were meant for people to live in, and these ones are meant for dingoes. My favorite trick for getting these backstage mesh doors the right size is to place a Planet Zoo door piece and then outline it with marquee beams. Also helps to place the door handle at the correct height. I also wanted to add this fun detail, a tray with a water or food dish. A lot of zoos have these. The keeper simply slides the tray out and is able to refill the bowl without entering the enclosure. Super simple, a combination of a metal beam, some of the emissive panels recolored black so they don't glow, and a bracket. We'll place a bowl on top of here later because it doesn't like to play nice with habitat barriers. Detailing the sea can is super simple with the fence posts and hinge pieces, just a little bit to make these doors seem more believable. And then a quick recolor. I'm really loving this orange from the logo color palette with the gray metal accents. The middle sea can will be the delivery port, so I'm going to create a fake garage door, some thick gray metal beams, and a bracket piece to seal the deal, making sure that our staff also have access to the building and some final detailing along the sides. Let's move on to the fences. Dingoes need a height of 4.13 feet, so here I am pausing for a second to figure out what that is in meters. Now knowing that it's 1.25 meters, which seems really short seeing as dingoes can jump 2 meters vertically, I'm actually going to make the back fence about 3 meters tall. Using the rusted rods because I thought they fit the style of this junkyard habitat, I'll have some thicker cross beams and then use the grassland pole for the thinner ones in between, lining them up as evenly as possible with the use of the advanced movement tool. At the top, I'll have an extra measure of security since these are carnivores, and while we don't want them escaping, we also don't want anyone climbing in. A hinge piece to attach, some grassland poles as wire, and then using the fairy lights to imitate barbed wire, just making sure all of the lights are black so they don't actually glow. Shout out to Digital Blob for this tip, amazing builder, make sure to go check him out. Another fence variation we'll create is a log fence using the round painted beams. I'm imagining these to be some sort of reclaimed wood, probably not the best quality, so the zoo is totally fine with just painting it whatever color. Line them up first and then rotate and flip over a few of the logs so it doesn't all look the same. Find a nice brown color and then some quick variations on that before staggering the top, and we're ready to outline the habitat with our brand new fences. If you're making custom fences, make sure to have your hidden barriers visible. It's an option in the bottom right menu and it makes outlining your enclosure a breeze. Along the left side, we'll have a covered viewing gallery to help guests stay out of the hot sun, bringing in that corrugated panel again for continuity, a thin glass frame, and the same wooden beams all around. We'll also add a metal beam to secure the top of the glass and fill that top part with mesh so there's a bit more airflow in here, and also so nothing can get thrown into the dingo habitat. Going to build that out so guests can walk through. This would have likely been a reconstructed sea can, some more wood beams, a metal roof, and adding these girders to the ceiling for some extra support and added interest. We also have the issue of our path falling off to the right because of the terrain work in the enclosure, so I'll cover that up with some African decorative strips. I love the weathered look of this wood, and create a floor for the gallery. We'll also create a garden bed along the wooden fence to hide the other imperfections. It's honestly my go-to, just cover it with plants. Works well in a lot of cases. All that's left is the front of the habitat. These pre-made fences from the Australia pack fit in really well, just making sure they're the height I want them to be and adding mesh in that same rusty color. That will fill out the front of the habitat nicely. Then it's some housekeeping items like making sure the plaza goes all the way up to the edge of the plaster, sliding these metal beams as close as possible before filling all of that space in with additional plaster pieces rotated to follow the curve of the enclosure. I think it's about time to start filling our enclosure, and to do that, I'm going to make a foliage palette. I'm looking for a grassy, more low-growing and open look, and I kind of struggled to make the palette match my vision for the habitat. In a moment, you'll see me remove the plants I decided against. I found a few of them too green for what I had in mind. But before placing plants, I always like to do the rock work, so we're going to fill in the moat with plenty of the aquatic faux rocks, plus a few extras, and then add larger boulders to the rest of the habitat. I was really struggling to make this look nice. This central rock feature was not coming together whatsoever until I decided to pull in some desert rocks alongside the savanna ones. That instantly made a big difference. To speed up the planting process a bit, I made a group of the various grasses before adding it all over the enclosure. I do not recommend placing these grasses one at a time. The red oat grass is quite small compared to some of the others like buffalo grass, and the varying shades of the regular, dry, and parched versions really look great together. Settled on these desert bloodwood trees, they were the color I was looking for in this habitat, but I was still having a bit of a hard time putting things together. So I took a break to place enrichment items, including this water pool. If you haven't seen the dingoes use this, the animation is so adorable, so I wanted it right in front of the viewing gallery. Hid the edges with a bunch more rocks to set it into the landscape, and left just the wooden ramp visible. The rotation line feeder is also going to get a spot front and center for maximum entertainment value. Also carried over these sunshades from the little penguin habitat give the dingoes some places to rest. And then I created a larger shade structure using the same sunshade and posts to give a focal point to this top portion of the enclosure. After that short break, it was time to go back to filling the enclosure, and this rock pile blueprint by Caesar Creates came in so handy. I just replaced the regular buffalo grass in it with dry and parched variants. Instantly filled up the habitat. To round out the palette, I did end up using plants from outside the continent and biome, which I don't normally do, but the buffalo grass was a must to get that longer grass texture, and the creosote and Nitraria retusa bushes, especially the dry variants, helped to give the enclosure that unkempt, dried out look. And then we're on to another palette of sorts where I threw together a bunch of props that I thought could be part of our junkyard. Plenty of pieces from the Australia and conservation packs. If you don't have those yet and are looking for scenery pieces, I highly recommend, and I do also recommend Instant Gaming, where you can get them for a fraction of the price and you can support me too. Find my referral link in the description. Now that I've got a bunch of junk, we're going to throw that in random but still tasteful places around the habitat, mostly trying to group these items in 2s or 3s to keep the eye moving through the enclosure. And finally, the pièce de résistance, the Jeep right in the center. So it's time to open our doors, quite literally, with some final touches like custom signage. These are line signs off of the workshop recolored to SEZ brand colors, enclosure lighting for our junkyard and enrichment features, and these custom lamp posts I created. Let's see how it turned out. How beautiful are these dingoes? I really want to pet them, but I know I shouldn't. A massive open enclosure for them to roam around in. I can't wait to have a larger pack in here. Cal are male and Maliki are female, both words for dingo in some of Australia's indigenous languages, are loving their new enclosure. Even the sea can holding area isn't so bad for a nap. I'm very pleased with this addition to Sandstone Eco Zoo, which will be back in 2 weeks with its next episode. Between the new laptop, new recording equipment, and a new video editing software, our schedule is changing a bit, but you can still expect other content in between, and I hope you enjoy the new direction this channel is taking. Here's a look at the state of SEZ after today's episode. I'm so excited for the continuation of this project. Thank you so much for joining me. See you next time. Bye.